Hi, and welcome to the Ballyhoobridge podcast, where we are your bridge out of chaos. I'm your host, Heather, and I've discovered the thing I enjoy most in life is helping people get unstuck. What do I mean unstuck? Well, are you stuck in your own chaos? Are you either struggling to quiet the noise and figure out your next move, or you know what to do, but you have no idea how to actually do it? Whether it's trying to understand all your spiritual desires or trying to grow a solo business. And now you're asking why I'm talking about both, right? Well, because it's been my experience that spiritual growth and solo business often go hand in hand. And that with the desire to grow, in comes the chaos. No matter where you are in that journey, you often just need someone to take you by the hand and help you bridge the gaps to your next goal, your next success. You need help to quiet the madness and understand your options. So we're going to talk about spiritual things and sometimes business things and probably a few other things too as we move through the chaos and cross the bridges. I hope you'll come along with me. Hey guys! I know it's been a minute since I've been on. I would really love to say that it's for something wonderful and fabulous like a planned hiatus or, something really put together like that. But the truth is I'm struggling. And I know I've shared a little bit about what's going on with me before, but the truth is my husband and, myself, we are the only people that really has any idea of what's really happening. And I've said the words out loud before, I think, that I have what appears to be symptoms of long COVID. And as I say these words to you, I am just over a year into these symptoms. And as much as I try not to let this happen, the truth is where my health is currently does kind of consume my life because it is my life. It's what I'm living every day. But it's been suggested to me by a really good friend that perhaps part of my purpose in my life entails me sharing this story and this journey that I'm on. Because hopefully it'll fix me, but it may also help fix someone else. So if you want to know, and if you're interested in, going on the ride, stay tuned because here we go. So I don't talk about this a lot, and I have to be honest about why. It makes me feel weak. It frustrates me to no end. I feel like I constantly have to explain myself and why I can't do something or why I'm not doing something. And of course, when you don't look sick outwardly, people look at me, there's nothing wrong with her, I don't see anything. So they just don't get it. And I also feel like, people ask me how I am, and I kind of wonder if they really want to know the truth, or is it the superficial question of, oh, how you doing? Or is it a true, really, how have you been? What's going on? And how many of them just get tired of hearing it? God knows I get tired of talking about it. And let's not even talk about the looks that you get. Oh, I hate the looks so much. You know what I'm talking about. Aw, poor thing. I do not want to hear poor thing. I feel so weak all the time. And I don't like when people look at me with this look like, oh, maybe she's not able to do that. Or they have the thought that, she can't do that. She's just not capable of it. I mean, specifically my job. Do you know how hard that is every day? And I don't want to be someone that needs special concessions. But the reality is, I can't always do things like others. Hell, I can't do things like me. The other day, I was telling someone a story about something that had happened and how I was a little worried about whatever it was because it just wasn't like me. I actually said those words out loud. I mean, that's just not like me. And I worry. I mean, things are starting to fall through the cracks at times. What if I can't perform like people expect me to? What if I let people down? What if I let myself down? Then one day it hit me like a ton of bricks when I say it's not like me, it's because I'm not that me anymore. And I don't really know who me is now. And I think that probably scares me more than the rest of it. I mean, when you're trying to change yourself and you're trying to become a better person, you have those moments of kind of not knowing who you really are anymore. You think, wow, I've changed, and it's exciting, and there's a anticipation of that growth, and it feels good. This is very different though. I mean, look, I know when you're spiritually growing, you don't really control it, but I guess I feel like I can sort of slow it down or speed it up at times. If something feels overwhelming, I can kind of maybe back off from it, change course a little bit, learn a new technique to kind of help myself with those changes or to reach a new level of development or something like that. So, I can at least fake control at times. But with this, I can't. These symptoms, they sometimes come on without warning. There was a time, at least, where they changed almost daily. That it's not as daily anymore, but they still are changing frequently. And there's no end. At least it seems like there's no end. There's no way that I'm aware of that I can make this better or that I can fix it. So far, nothing that we've tried works. And at times, there's things we've tried that have actually even made it worse. Doctors literally will scratch their heads and just go, I don't know. I've had, I think, 5 doctors now look at me and say, I don't know. And I have one that I think has pretty much decided that it's just all in my head. It's just, an anxiety thing. So what is all of this? Maybe you're asking yourself. Well, it's what a lot of people have talked about with long COVID. Fatigue, brain fog, their memory issues. A lot of that stuff started coming up while I had the virus. And then, of course, they've remained today. My trigger anxieties have ramped up, to 1,000. The other big one is I have seizure or convulsive type events. They're undiagnosed, so we don't really know what to call them. Those began the 3rd day of the virus. And at the time of this recording, I've had approximately 90 of those events. And that one is the one that seems to be stumping people the most because we really just can't figure out what's causing it. So let me back up to kind of the end of me having the virus. My internist noticed that my white blood cell counts and my platelets were perpetually elevated. And she kept checking them and they just weren't coming down. I guess she thought as the virus got out of my system, they would come back down because she really didn't do anything that I can recall to try and help that. So as they stayed higher, she was really getting concerned. So every time I would say long COVID to her, of course, she would roll her eyes. But she knew that something was up, so she sent me to a hematologist. So when you take things like the fog and some of those symptoms, the counts that we were looking at, the seizure-like activity, you just have to imagine that I have air quotes around that. But anyway, those led the hematologist to think leukemia. I believe now that he was absolutely convinced that I actually had leukemia. And he was so convinced that it came to the point of him ordering a bone marrow biopsy, which I thought was pretty serious, and we were jumped into that pretty quick. But those counts weren't coming down, and you had the other symptoms that went with it. And I told him how concerned I was about a lot of this stuff, not just those counts. And he assured me, he said to me, we're going to dig until we figure this out, and we're going to start by digging in your hip. Because docs got jokes, right? I'm very happy to say that the biopsy was negative. So were all the other tests, except, of course, my iron levels. He was very excited to tell me this, and of course, I was very excited to hear it. I am perpetually anemic due to having PCOS, and I was showing low iron in other areas. So basically, they put me on a boatload of iron and said, you know what, we'll see you in 3 months. So on we go. We get to the 3-month visit. And when I got there, I didn't even see him. I didn't know this, but they had actually scheduled me with his nurse practitioner. So she looks at the iron levels. Everything's fine. Let's adjust. Let's do this and move on. All the digging that was supposed to happen, evidently, is just not going to anymore. They were, oh, okay, well, that's not us. Seizures and whatnot, that's not us. You'll have to talk to someone else. So we adjusted the iron intake. She said she, not him, would see me in 6 months to recheck my iron. So much for the digging until we found what it was. That's doctor number 2 that blew me off. So evidently, when you report seizure-like activity to someone, I'm not sure they can really ignore it. So my doctor, my internist, did actually order an EEG. And I don't know if any of you guys have had an EEG, but for this one in particular, they connected all the electrodes and whatnot to my brain so they could watch that activity. But they also videotaped it because they wanted to see if anything else happened, I think, in your body as they were seeing if they could, sort of force a seizure and things like that. So it was on video. Well, while I'm on the table for the EEG, I had an episode. That's what we call them in my house. We call them episodes because we don't have another name for it. But anyway, so I had one on the table. So they have it on video. So the neurologist that read it said her result was that it was convulsive-like behavior similar to that of someone on an SSRI. If you don't know what that is, I had to look it up. It's basically anxiety or depression meds. So needless to say, I don't take an SSRI, so that didn't really work for me. The neurologist could see me in 7 months. I think I actually said out loud to the scheduler that I could die by then. I don't know what these are. I could die. Okay, they were unfazed. I found a different neurologist. Now that neurologist, when I said the words long COVID to him, his response, well, it could be. But again, he's scratching his head. Nothing that they had tested. He could see all the blood work everybody else had done. Blood work after blood work after blood work had been done, by the way. And he's going, I just don't know. And he said, you know what? Let's do a sleep study. His words were, sleep apnea can do foreign things to people. And I'm older, I'm overweight, I know I snore, so yeah, I probably do have apnea. I don't think it would suddenly present itself with sudden onset seizures, but okay, I'll play along. Why not? Sleep study. So we go to the sleep doctor, and he actually agreed that this was odd. I didn't have the typical complaints of someone who has apnea, so he was actually wondering why I was even there. So, of course, here I go. I have to explain the whole thing again, and this is what's happening, and we're having these seizure-like episodes, and nobody knows what they are. I said to him, I'm concerned about long COVID because a lot of my symptoms fall in line with that, and he goes, yeah, it actually could be that. So that's 2 that actually at least agreed that we could be on that path. So I guess that's positive. Plus, he's like, look, the truth is most people have apnea, and they don't even know it. So this can't hurt. He also said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think we're going to solve your problem. But if you have apnea, we can help that. And like I said, that's a good thing. Basically, it can't hurt me to help the apnea. It may not solve the rest of my issues, but it could make me healthier overall. I'll end the suspense. I'm sure you figured it out. I have sleep apnea. It's really mild, but of course they recommend a machine. I'm going to be honest now. I really didn't want to try it. My husband has one of those things, and it just feels like a big old pain. But I did. I tried it, and it wasn't horrible. It was like, okay, it is what it is. You have to get used to it. But here's the truly weird thing that none of us can figure out. It was about 3 days after I started it. I started having an episode every day. Now, to give you the proper perspective, usually I was only having them about once a week, and now they were becoming daily without fail. So now we're scratching our heads going, You can't really tell me, you can't honestly tell me that this machine is making this worse. That makes zero, big donut hole, 0 sense. But my husband said, look, let's just test this theory. We won't know if we don't try. He goes, humor me and don't use it tonight. So we tested the theory. Sure enough, every time I use the machine, I have an episode the next day without fail. Makes 0 sense, people. 0. So if you haven't kind of figured this out, a lot of these tests are running somewhat simultaneously. I felt like I was constantly in a doctor's office. And so in the meantime, I go back to my internist. We were doing it, I think, about every 6 weeks or something. She just kind of wanted to touch base, see how I was. Sometimes she would run new blood work to check those white blood cell counts and whatnot, which, by the way, they still fluctuate all the time. They're up, then they're down, then they're up, then they're down. Basically, she is convinced that I need to see a psychiatrist. Look, I'm not going to deny that I had anxiety. I've had anxiety for most of my life. I won't deny that I've had some anxiety issues since having the virus. But this is not all in my head. She asked me, and I don't even know how many visits were in by the time she asked me this. Has anyone ever witnessed these? Really? I've had 90 events in a year. My husband sees them every few days. There's video of me having one during an EEG. There's a nurse that witnessed me have one waiting to have an MRI on my brain. We're going to talk about that in a minute. No, nobody's seen one. Really? All I could really think was, so you think I'm lying? She thinks I'm lying about this. She thinks I'm making all this up. But that's how she is. When she can't figure something out, she goes immediately to anxiety. I mean, what else could it be, right? And she's one of those people that she wants to solve the puzzle. I think that's why she's an internist, because she feels like as an internist, she can look at people's situation, figure it out, give them something, whether it's, an exercise or medicine or whatever it is, to help them get better. And, some specialties, she even said out loud that one of the reasons she never went into neurology is because she feels like you can't actually fix people. But I digress. She actually agreed that, let's get all the tests done and see what they say, and then we can look at it. Like, you do that, sweetheart. I'm going to look for another doctor. Anyway, her idea was, let's try some anxiety meds. Let's just see. She said, you said your anxiety was worse. No, I said my claustrophobia was worse. The rest of me's fine. But anyway, I decided to play along. What she doesn't know is there's a group that I'm in of people that have long COVID, and a lot of us share symptoms and treatments and different things like that, because there's so many people that know nothing about this that we're all trying to help each other. Oh, I found this out. Oh, what did you find out about this? To try to do something to help each other move along, because goodness knows the medical profession is doing nothing for us. Anyway, back to the meds. Okay, so anti-anxiety meds. It can't hurt, because a lot of what I've seen in this group is several people have said that the anxiety meds have actually helped. It's almost like it reversed what was going on in their body. Okay, I'll try it. So I start the anxiety meds. I was on them for 11 days. Every day for 11 days straight, I had an episode. So I called her. Can I get off of these now? Sure. Next. One positive in all this has been that the neurologist doesn't seem to be done. He seems to genuinely be trying to figure this out. A lot of the symptoms point at least somewhat to MS. So he actually did an MRI to rule that and a few other things out, which we did. So that was good. He ordered another EEG, which I think was actually for the sole purpose of then being able to order a long EEG, which will show him activity for a longer period of time. He's also run a ton of blood tests to make sure that just different levels of different things are okay. And some of his seem to be a little more in depth than some of the other doctors ordered. We're also waiting on a result for a heavy metal test. I've had several people recommend that to me because apparently high levels of heavy metals in your body can cause some of the things that are happening. The good news is the fatigue and the brain fog have had minor improvement with the iron intake. I'll also make sure that I stay hydrated and do Powerade and things like that frequently. That seems to help the memory a lot. I've been tracking everything I consume, all my activity, trying to see if we can find any kind of association with any of these things, especially the episodes. And at this point, there's nothing to indicate that there are any triggers, with the exception of cold. That's really the only one we found out. Me getting cold is really, really not fun, and it seems to be something that triggers one of these events. But there's something that's just odd about these events. When they happen, it feels like there's a buildup of energy, and it's all concentrated in my chest. And I feel like that energy just needs to be released. Generally, right before, I just don't feel good, or I just feel like I just kind of don't want to be in my own skin. I can't be still. I just kind of move around a lot, wiggle a lot. When the cold causes it, it actually feels like it's inside my body. My whole body feels cold, not just a surface cold of, oh, let me put a jacket on. There have been a few that seem to come from me being super tired and really run down, and that felt like it might be a trigger, but to be honest, we're not completely sure about that. They are usually confined to my torso area. There are times when it's localized to my upper back versus my chest. The event itself only lasts about 5 minutes, but the time leading up to it can often be anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes of that not feeling well and feeling like it's sort of coming and the event itself is about to come. My whole torso will tighten up for a few seconds and then it'll release. One of the things that's kind of freaky about the whole thing is that when that all happens, I can't breathe. And so during that time, I'm wondering when my body's going to let go, when I can finally force myself to breathe, or my body will force me to breathe. I have discovered that I can take air in. I just can't really breathe out. So sometimes that does help. And if I can force my body to physically move in the position that I'm in, it almost breaks the seizure and allows my body to relax then. But again, the whole event is probably about 5 minutes. After it, I am usually completely exhausted. I try to lay down when they happen. So I usually just try to fall asleep straight away. If I don't get to do that, however, if I'm in a place or a situation where I can't lay down specifically so that I can't go to sleep, the brain fog gets really bad. It's really bad. So sleeping at least, even if it's only a few minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, can be really helpful. I don't lose cognitive function at any point. I can talk to you the whole time. I mean, with some difficulty, obviously, but I can talk. I mostly have control of my arms, my legs, my head. Sometimes, especially my arms or my legs, one of my limbs will sort of move almost uncontrollably, but it's like a rhythmic moving of some type. That will happen at times. Sometimes there's a tremor involved in the body, but that doesn't happen as often. The next day after an event, my arms and legs basically feel like concrete. I feel like I have to force them to move, and my exhaustion and brain fog are usually a lot worse. The next day, the really fun thing that we cannot figure out is sometimes my vision changes. It's usually just one eye will get pretty bad, but my vision will get worse. And then, then the next day, it'll be back to normal. So often when I have an episode, it'll take me a day probably to recover from it. So with all of this in mind and with all this going on, I have to be completely honest. There are some days where work is just almost impossible because my focus just isn't there. I'm so tired that it's hard to function. I'm very lucky that I have a boss that allows me to work basically a hybrid home and then office schedule. And what that does is it gives me days to rest. And the days that I don't have to go in, obviously I'm not having to get up as early. I'm not having to fight traffic and things like that. So I can be a little more relaxed in my home office. So that really does help my recovery time. In the meantime, it kind of consumes my life in a lot of ways. My doctor told me one day, you need to stop worrying about this. You keep saying that you're trying to think outside the box and figure out what it is. You need to just stop worrying about it so much. Stop thinking about it all the time. Really? Again, really? This is my life. This is all day, every day. Something is going on. Something is affecting how I live, how I function. So it's not that I'm thinking about it. It's that it's there. It has changed the way I live. I feel like there's days where I'm almost fighting the energy all day long. I have to be sure that I always have a sweater or something like that with me so that if I start getting cold, I can try to get myself warm. I always have a bottle of water with me so that I can stay hydrated. And there are a few times where there's a little bit of nausea involved. That's not as often. But, sometimes a sip of water can help with that. I have to be aware of how far I drive. I've actually had these when I was driving home from work and I had to pull over. And then my husband, had to come get me and drive me home. So I have to be aware. I'm always aware of how far away from home I'm going, what time of day it is, because I know what time of day these usually happen. And that someone knows where I am so that if I have to quickly convey that, they can get to me. But I try not to be too far from home so that it doesn't take them too long to get to me. I'm also a little scared to be alone. The fact that you get to a point where you can't breathe is a little distressing. So I think I have a fear that I may pass out or something like that and no one will know. If for some reason I can't lay down and I'm having one and it causes me to pass out, could fall. So being alone is a little scary at times. There's also the fact that as much as I can talk and communicate during an episode, I still need help. I can't protect myself from anyone and I need to sleep after. And if I don't, I'm super, super weak. So being alone has its challenges for a lot of different reasons. There have been many a day where we've had to change plans literally the last minute due to me having a seizure or an episode, as we were about to leave. I've had them during dinner where I've had to literally just put my plate down and go lay down. I think most people, when they see me these days, they're seeing me holding it together as best I can, especially when I'm in public or around my coworkers. They don't really know what's going on in my head or what I might even be fighting at that moment. And I'm not going to lie, there's an embarrassment to this. I don't want people to see me have one of these episodes. And I guess part of it is, have you ever watched somebody have something like this happen? You don't know what to do. You feel helpless. It's just odd. And not only do I not want them to see it, I think I don't want to put them in that situation. And again, I'm going to start getting the looks. I don't want them to coddle me. I don't want the, oh, no. But what they don't see is when I get home. Or sometimes even just back to my office where people can't see me. They don't see me in there trying to control my breathing and pay attention to what's happening because I'm having chest pain, which is a little bit of a new thing, by the way. We're discovering that there are times when, before I have one of these episodes, there's chest pain before it. So we're working on that part of everything. But people don't see me trying to figure that out and figure out, is the energy coming? And if so, when? trying to figure out how to get somewhere where I don't hurt myself. If I'm at work, there's nowhere to lay down, and you're in a chair. And trust me, that is not a fun position for that to happen in, just FYI. Then there's after it's happened, or when all this is happening, I've got to figure out how I'm going to get myself home. I'm thinking clearly right now. The brain fog is not set in. So I'm actually already starting to process how I'm going to get home. If I'm at work, what if somebody walks in on me? And what people don't see is the after of all this. When my legs are so weak that I can barely walk. When I finally get to my bed and I literally pass out from sheer exhaustion. They don't see my husband, who has to help me do so many things. Some days are better than others, but there are some days that it's so bad that, even something simple like a bath is a struggle to do on my own. They don't see my husband doing all the housework because I just have no ability to do it, usually from weakness or exhaustion. There are many, many days where it feels like I just kind of do the bare minimum to live. And all too often, that's really all I can manage. And if I've had a really hard, busy day, it can often take me several days after that to actually recover from it and be back to any semblance of normal. I think probably the hardest thing right now in this moment is that it seems to be getting worse instead of better. And I feel like I don't really have a life anymore. I feel like this is my life. So here I am a year later. I've gone from an independent, hardworking professional with side gigs and hobbies to this, where I'm struggling to work. I'm scared to be alone, and I'm very unsure of the future. One thing I am pretty sure of in all of this, I don't think the doctors are going to solve it. I think I'm going to have to solve it myself. And I think I spent most of the last year, you held out hope that they would, because it's what you really wanted. But then the acceptance has started to come, and I think that may be a good thing, because with that, I don't feel quite so low about it anymore. And there are medical things that are being found. There are a few things that are coming up that had to do with my health even before the virus, and those are getting addressed. So that's good. I mean, it's not helping these particular issues, but they're good for my overall health nonetheless. So, I mean, those are positives, right? Okay, so you guys know that I exist in a spiritual world too, right? I mean, we talk about it. That's part of what we talk about on this podcast. I have abilities. I use them to tap into people and places and energies and all kind of things like that. And so one day when the energy was building inside my body, I could feel it coming up. I decided to try to tap the energy and see what I found. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't like it. It literally felt foreign to me. And it was just the oddest thing that I could not really understand and put my mind around. So we've got a few working theories around some of this. First of all, the virus itself felt foreign to me, and I actually heard other people say that too. They're like, this virus just doesn't feel right. It feels foreign. So the fact that this after effect feels that way actually kind of tracks. So, okay, that's one thought, and that it is medical and related to the virus. Number 2, it has been thought by some that I might be going through some sort of level up or some sort of spiritual level up, and that maybe I needed to accept some things in my spiritual development. But that either way, my body was fighting this new energy, or there was energy that I needed to allow it to be free, and that this was tied in to what was happening. I actually went with that one for a little bit, thinking, okay, let me see if I can figure this out. Some of the thing with that, though, was I'm so tired and kind of so exhausted all the time that I was off my routine and I was struggling to even figure out what to do with that. And now, number 3. This one is probably both the one that makes the most sense and the one that will be the most odd. Hear me out. Remember the chest pain that I mentioned before? Well, that's actually something I had pre-virus. It started at least a year, I would say, before I had the virus. And the truth is, I had forgotten about this. A friend of mine reminded me. But around the time that it started, I was actually doing research on this old house. I had seen a picture of it, and for some reason, I just felt crazy connection to it. And so I had decided that I wanted to tap into it. One, I was trying to figure out where it was. And 2, what was this connection? And it has actually been suggested to me that something actually attached itself to me at that time. And that the episodes and even the pain are times when my protections, I guess you'd say, are weak, and that it can sort of get in and try to get to my energy. Look, I realize for some listeners, I realize how far-fetched that seems. It seems odd. But I did some research because, got to do the research. And I discovered that there are many people that believe in this type of event. And in fact, they feel like it probably happens to most of us at one point or another in our lives, even multiple points. And we may not even be aware of it. Now, the answer to that scenario is to cut cords to that house and do shadow work and inner work that I need to do in order to heal myself and sort of not have all those holes in my armor, so to speak. And here's the truth. Whether it's real or whether it is ridiculously far-fetched, it's something tangible that I can work on and that can actually help me change my mindset. I didn't feel so lost anymore when we came up with this. I didn't feel like there was no end. It finally showed me sort of a way forward and something I could do, an action I could actually take to possibly change this. And the things that we talked about doing, the shadow work and things like that, those will only make me a better person. I mean, entity or not, that kind of work will always be positive. So I'm working on what I can change. We've started with our diet. We are cleaning that up, cleaning up what we eat. I'm doing research on diet and detoxing and the like. And of course, this has been a bit of a slow change because I want my family to sort of come along with me and be healthier. So we're changing little bits at a time each week as we plan our menus out. I also am working towards getting back on my routine. For starters, I used to meditate and journal every day. And y'all, that hasn't happened on a regular basis in months. But the thing that is very evident is that I am stronger when I do it. It gets me grounded. It gets me centered. It gets my head where I need to be. And it just helps me be a stronger, better person. So I'm working on that, doing it every time I can, and making it part of my regular routine again. My friend Spring told me one time, and I'm paraphrasing here, you guys, she said it much more eloquently than this, but her thought was that the only way forward for us was to clean ourselves up, to clean up what we eat, to work on ourselves so that we become the best vessel we can be, so that we can receive the downloads that we need to hear, that we need to know, not only for ourselves, but for others. And I'm like, sure, let me get right on that. But the truth is, it's a journey, you guys. This is not a quick fix. The truth is, I've lost count of how many times I've been sobbing on my bed, asking my husband, when will someone fix me? Why can't they fix me? but I'm just not sure that they can. Like I said, even if we find some answers and find some treatments, I don't think they can fix me. But with the help of God and the universe, I think I can. At least as much as being fixed is the end goal. Because maybe part of it is about the journey forward. So I'm trying some things. I'm moving forward, even if it's at the lightning speed of a sloth at times. And I feel like this falls in line with what we wanted to talk about here. I mean, when it comes to spiritual journeys and where mine's taken me, it really felt like the right thing to talk about next. Don't get me wrong, things suck a lot, but I am so grateful for all the positives that have come out of this. I mean, the lessons I'm learning, the amazing friends and family that have really never strayed. They pick me up when I'm having a meltdown. They talk me off the ledge. My beautiful, beautiful Wonder Women, my Lunar Witch Society, you guys keep me going. And of course, my husband and my son are my heroes. I've decided my words for the year are acceptance and trust. I have to accept that things may change minute to minute, and that's okay. And it may literally explode my plans, and that's okay too. It is what it is, and it's all okay. I have to trust that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So maybe you're asking yourself, why are you sharing all this again? And it is not for the aw. That is not what this is about. I hope I can help someone else. Maybe help someone not feel so alone in what's going on with them. I mean, let's be honest, y'all. We've all gotten really good at hiding ourselves and not allowing people to see what's really going on. So maybe it's time for us to just be honest and just be us. I truly believe that we can all help each other heal in all areas of our lives if we're just willing to try and to listen. So thanks for listening to me. I'm sending you all love and light. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode and that it was helpful to you in some way. Make sure to like and rate and do all those fun things for our podcast. We really do appreciate it. And of course, check out the show notes for links and any other important information. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at ballyhoobridge. If you're looking for guidance in your journey, head over to ballyhoobridge.com. There you can do things like choose a time for a free 30-minute clarity call with me. And you can find out what ballyhoobridge means, in case you were wondering. In the meantime, don't forget to take care of yourself. Until next time.